Tonight on KGW News.
Where have all the drivers gone?
A shortage of Uber and Lyft drivers is hitting Portland hard.
Plus, not only is Oregon suffering from a major drug addiction crisis, but the state ranks last in the nation for access to treatment.
Something's wrong with that, in my opinion. It means we don't care about people's lives.
And after nearly 2 years of wearing masks, we finally have a clearer timeline of when we can start to take them off here in the Pacific Northwest. Your news starts now. And thank you for joining us for this special edition of KGW News on this Sunday night. I'm Laurel Porter.
And I'm Pat Doris. I hope you've enjoyed watching the Super Bowl and the Olympics.
It's been a really fun day, and under normal circumstances, this would be one of the busiest days of the year for Uber and Lyft drivers, taking people home from Super Bowl parties. But things have changed due to the pandemic.
There might not be so many big parties, and there definitely are not as many rideshare drivers. So where have they gone? Here's investigative reporter Kyle Aboshi.
In a pandemic filled with stops and starts, it feels like people are moving again. Yet rideshare giants Uber and Lyft, they're struggling to bring drivers back, which can mean longer wait times for riders.
After a long trip of traveling, you just kind of want to get home, you know? That's kind of where I'm at with it. I just want to get home.
It's a completely different vibe now, yeah. It's just, it just used to be so convenient.
Because you're waiting.
Yeah, we're waiting.
There were about 17,000 Uber, Lyft, and taxi drivers in Portland 3 years ago. Today, there are only about 6,500.
Here he comes.
So where have all the drivers gone?
How's it going?
All right, how you doing?
Gerald McClinton is an Uber driver.
How long you been driving?
Over 4 years,
So you've seen the ups and downs.
I have.
So where have all the drivers gone?
A lot of drivers are not coming back because they're scared of, the COVID concerns,
During the pandemic, 77% of Uber and Lyft drivers in Portland said COVID was the primary reason they stopped driving.
I don't want to contract something and bring something home. I don't want to, get anyone sick.
Drivers also left because there just wasn't as much demand. Portland went from almost 13 million rides a year in 2019 to roughly 4 million last year. They weren't making as much. Pay models changed, so did bonuses. Drivers worried about safety, and unemployment benefits became available. But now, things are starting to change, and customers are returning to the apps, only to find out, at times, there aren't enough drivers.
Hello, this is Jason.
Jason, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good.
You used to be an Uber driver, right?
Yeah, I drove for about 6 years.
Jason Tim was one of Portland's most popular rideshare drivers with his tricked-out SUV. Uber even featured him in a promotion. But like thousands of other drivers, he left during the pandemic.
You think these Uber drivers will come back?
I don't know. I think there's a lot more opportunities for actual jobs out there with benefits and things these days.
Both Uber and Lyft are offering incentives to try and lure drivers back to the apps, but they face stiff competition from other gig services like food delivery.
So a lot of drivers switch to Uber Eats, DoorDash, Instacart, many other gig economy jobs.
Sergio Avidian writes for the blog The Rideshare Guy.
Is this problem unique to Uber and Lyft as far as finding workers?
To me, from top to bottom, everybody, was forced to push their reset button and value what they're worth and what they're doing and should they change.
So Uber and Lyft are just like every other company in the country. They're fighting for workers.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sergio, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kyle. I appreciate it.
It's difficult to gauge whether this driver shortage really impacts how much you pay for a ride. But we do know the pandemic pushed a lot of drivers to quit, thousands of them. So the question is, will these Uber and Lyft drivers come back as Portland starts moving again? Kyle Aboshi, KGW News.
If you're heading home from a Super Bowl party, avoid southbound 205 right now. 2 lanes are blocked because of police activity. This is on the Washington side of the Glenn Jackson Bridge near the SR 14 exit. Dispatchers told us police initially responded to a report of a broken down vehicle, but they say this might now involve someone in a mental health crisis. And 2 lanes of southbound I-5 are also shut down right now at the Markham Bridge. Dispatch says there was a crash after a report of a wrong-way driver.
Health leaders say the worst of the Omicron surge appears to be behind us. It's a major factor in plans to lift mask requirements in both Oregon and Washington. Christelle Kumwe has a look at the latest COVID updates.
Oregon health leaders say the COVID-19 virus is losing momentum. The state's indoor mask mandate is set to end for the general public by the end of March at the latest. In Washington, Governor Jay Inslee says the outdoor mask mandate will end this Friday, but he's holding off to address the indoor mandate.
The worst of the Omicron surge appears to be behind us.
State epidemiologist Dr. Dean Seidlinger said newly diagnosed COVID cases have fallen 71% from the peak a few weeks ago, and daily COVID-related hospitalizations appear to have crested.
Recall that when we first sounded the Omicron alarm last December, credible projections called for hospitalizations to be more than twice as high as we've experienced. Thankfully, we never realized that dreaded breaking point.
He points to people getting vaccinated, limiting gatherings, and wearing masks, a requirement that'll be lifted at the end of March for both public indoor spaces and schools. But individual school districts will make the final decision about whether or not to drop masking.
So now we are entering a transition period.
In Washington, Governor Jay Inslee says the state's outdoor mask mandate for large events will end Friday, February 18th. He says the indoor masking policy will end in due time.
It is no longer a matter of if, it is a question of when.
He'll assess data before announcing an official date. We know it's hard to keep track of all the updates, so you can look up mask mandates on KGW.com to get the latest. I'm Christelle Kumwe for KGW News.
A Portland man has a second job of sorts, and his only payment, gratitude from auto theft victims. He's made it his mission to recover their vehicles. Nick Hass has recovered 54 stolen cars, trucks, and motorcycles since last September. 54. He looks for reports of stolen vehicles on social media, then goes out and finds them if he can. Right now, Portland is seeing more than 1,000 vehicle thefts a month. Police can't take care of it all, so Hass says he's doing his part.
You know, it takes a village, and I feel like if I can lead by example, more people will start stepping up and doing the kind of things that I'm doing, and eventually these guys will start to realize this isn't a good idea anymore.
We certainly hope so. This Subaru is in Hass's auto shop lot. He rescued it from a thief and is fixing it up for the grateful owner. Unfortunately, a lot of the stolen cars end up trashed and stripped of parts for the black market.